So you're on Facebook, huh?
I joined about 10 minutes ago.
Well, better late than never. All right, so there are all these questions for your profile that you can answer if you want to, like people who inspire you.
Jules Austin. You do inspire, Jules.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our podcast. I'm Nur Hidayah, or more known as Ya, and this is my partner Haranajda, who is known as Match. If you're new here, click the subscribe button, leave a like and comment. Also, don't forget to turn the notifications on. So, over the last 2 weeks, we can see many people have speak up regarding professionalism on various platforms. So within this past 2 weeks too, we also have received a bunch of requests regarding the topic on our Discord. However, after debating whether we should share our perspective on that, we decided to dive deeper into another related topic, which is workplace learning. We figured if all of us are giving basically the same input, then what new knowledge will the audience get, right? As what you can see on the screen right now, these are some of the subtopics that we're going to tap into for today's discussion. So shall we begin, Match?
I'm ready. Let's go.
So, what is workplace learning? Workplace learning is actually learning organized in or by the workplace, and that supports employment role and progression. Basically, we could divide workplace learning into 3 contexts, which is formal, informal, and incidental. So, formal learning is generally organized by the institution for its worker. Examples of formal learning would be training programs, mentoring, and programs that promotes the pursuance of a certificate. For informal learning, it usually takes place outside a formal institutional setting. Meanwhile, for the incidental learning, it is a learning that is usually unintentional or generally byproduct of an activity. This type of learning can happen when one learns from mistakes or gains insights while performing a task. According to Garvin et al. In 2002, workplace learning can be defined as a set of processes which occur within specific organizational contexts and focus on acquiring and assimilating an integrated cluster of knowledge, skills, values, and feelings that result in individuals and teams refocusing and fundamentally changing their behavior.
So in a simple word, it is a training that people received while they are at work and they are paid by their employer. What an individual learns is defined by the requirement of their task within the organization or workplace. As an example, in our context as an education student, in semester 8, we are required to go to school for our practical and we need to do everything that teacher always do, right? Teaching, marking question papers, filing, and we even need to involve ourselves in co-curricular activities. So, working is interconnected with learning, and consequently, workplace learning is the way in which skills are upgraded and knowledge is acquired at the place of work. Broadly speaking, it can be defined as the acquisition of knowledge or skills by formal or informal means that occurs in the workplace. In addition, workplace learning is a two-way representation in which employers and employees can mutually address skills development through a process of social discourse in relation to the workplace. Workplace learning mostly occurs through work-related interaction and is generally described as contributing to the learning of both the individual employee and the organization as a whole. Workplace learning is also culturally bound, meaning that the skills that an employee learns represent the requirements of his or her task within the organization. Moreover, much evidence shows that people learn more from each other and through finding solutions for their day-to-day problems at the workplace. Therefore, workplace learning can include formal elements but is predominantly informal in nature and is often incorporated into workplace social interaction and everyday practices. In this regard, it is often argued that the most important source of information from which one can learn is the existing job predecessor. Now, Ya, can you tell me why workplace learning is important?
Sure, Nudge. Workplace learning should be a top priority because it is going to happen regardless of the methods used to administer it. This is because the employees learn, then retain knowledge and skills every day through watching formal training videos, the behavior of their coworkers, and from various experiences that happen on the job. Honestly, when workplace learning are done correctly, it is actually a proven way to guarantee that employees have the essential skills for present and future employment. It is mainly because it can provide structured training and development which enhances employees' knowledge and skills needed to perform their jobs, which in turn increases productivity.
Makes sense. Basically, workplace learning gives you the opportunity to brush up on your weaker skills or develop yourself to work better. What about workplace learning in terms of teachers?
That's an easy one. For teachers or educators, the workplace learning is more concerned with informal learning rather than formal education and qualifications. Actually, the teacher's workplace learning can be defined as changes in teaching practices in classrooms and schools that are mediated through individual teacher learning and problem-solving processes in the school, Astro 2001. According to Guskey in 2000, in the field of education, professional development is the generic term under which teacher learning activities and programs are organized and discussed. Teachers' professional development can be defined as those processes and activities designed to enhance the professional knowledge, skills, and attitudes of educators so that they might, in turn, improve the learning of students. Now, Nudge, some of our audiences have been sending us a request through the live chat. They want to know more about the situated learning. So could you explain more regarding on that topic?
In 1991, education theorist Lev and Wagner developed situated learning theory (SLT). The theory argues that learning occurs best when it takes place in the context in which it is applied. Situated learning theory is based on the assumption that knowledge should be presented in authentic context that involves its application. SLT requires individuals to be more actively participating in the learning experience. SLT consists of three main concepts. These three concepts are important in SLT that help people to understand the concept. The first one is authentic. Authentic is a situation when students are embedded in real-world context. For example, during practicum, we will be exposed to real teaching environment as we need to teach in school, interact with students and teachers, and also execute real lessons. The second one is legitimate peripheral participants. Learners move from novice to expert through engagement, interaction, and collaboration. This term shows that when you start out, you are in the outside of the community of practice. You are not a central member of the community. When you are starting out, you might do low-risk, easy, achievable tasks that are valuable to the community, but not the most complex or difficult tasks. As you gain experience and competence, you will start assuming more and more responsibilities and becoming a more and more central member of the community of practice. As a practical teacher, we started as a beginner, and as we go through interaction and collaboration, we will slowly master our task and gain new knowledge. Do you understand? Okay, so the next point is community of practice. Because knowledge is socially co-constructed by a community, the only way to learn is to learn from others. Talking and listening to others can help you learn what information is important to society and how society views certain topics. Lev and Wagner say that there are some communities of practice who all share the same knowledge. The typical community of practice is a group of professionals who share a craft. Some examples of communities of practice are lawyers, carpenters, and educators. So, as an educator, this is my community of practice. Things we know about include pedagogy, identifying learning disabilities, how to get the best out of students, and how to develop a curriculum. Students should act in an apprentice capacity within communities of practice where learning opportunities arise situationally. As students gain experience and competence, they gradually move from a beginner role to full participants in their community of practice. For example, if you want to learn how to be a doctor, learn from doctors. You will never learn on your own. If you want to learn how to fix cars, spend time with a mechanic. Here are some scholarly definitions that you could use in an essay on this topic. Now, screenshot this and save in your phone for your future reference. Now let's take a look at the benefits of SLT. The first one is a focus on social learning. It provides opportunity for communication and socialization within the group. Next, links learning to life. It provides the knowledge that will be used and relevant to the real lives. Next, learning must be active. Individuals learn through active approaches such as project-based learning that allows developing of knowledge through trial and error. And it prepares students for the 21st century. It requires students strong in collaboration and communication skills. In theory, situated learning has the potential advantage of placing learners in realistic settings where socially acquired ways of knowing are often valued, increasing the likelihood of application within similar contexts, and strategically applying the learner's prior knowledge on a given subject. Now, I will pass the mic to Ya to explain about cognitive learning theory, CLT.
Now, let's take a look at CLT. So basically, CLT is credited to educational psychologist John Piaget. He actually believes that knowledge is something that is actively constructed by learners based on their cognitive. Cognitive learning is an active style of learning that focuses on helping you learn how to maximize your brain's potential. It makes it easier for you to connect new information with existing ideas, hence deepening your memory and retention capacity. The ability of the brain's mental processes to absorb and retain information through experience, senses, and thought is known as cognition. So, what is cognition? Cognition is the mental process of gaining knowledge and understanding through the senses, experience, and thought. Cognitive learning theory merges cognition and learning to explain the different processes involved in learning effectively. So, there are three elements of CLT. The first one is comprehension, which means understanding the reason for learning the subject in the first place. For example, why are you choosing education course? It is because you want to become a teacher. Thus, you need to further your study in a course that aligns with it. The second element is memory. It means having a deep understanding of a subject and improves the ability to relate new knowledge with previous experiences or information. The last element of CLT would be application, which means apply new information or skills in real-life situations and encourage people to continue to develop problem-solving skills. The following are the 5 major positive effects of cognitive learning. The first one is able to enhance learning. Cognitive learning theory enhances lifelong learning. Workers can build upon previous ideas and apply new concepts to already existing knowledge. The second positive effect is able to boost confidence. Individuals become more confident in approaching new tasks as they get a deeper understanding of new topics and learn new skills. The third benefit is ones are able to enhance comprehension. Cognitive learning improves learners' comprehension of acquiring new information. They can develop a deeper understanding of new learning materials. Next, individuals are able to improve their problem-solving skills, as cognitive learning equips a person with the skills they need to learn effectively. They are thereby able to develop problem-solving skills which they can apply under challenging tasks. Last but not least, cognitive learning able to help individuals to learn new things faster. Through the experience of learning, they will be able to recycle and use the same learning methods that worked previously. This will help them learn new things a lot faster, as they already know what works for them when it comes to obtaining new knowledge.
Now, before we continue with our topic, let's have a break for a moment, shall we?
A few moments later.
We are back! So, are you ready to continue with our topic?
I'm ready.
Nudge, do you know what does it mean by reflection in education context?
Reflection is a disciplined inquiry into the motives, methods, material, and consequences of educational practice. It enables practitioners to thoroughly examine conditions and attitudes which impede or enhance student enhancement. And on the idea of reflection leading to professional development, Clark 1995 suggests that learning to be a good teacher results from the conscious reflection of event, training, experiences, readings, and other contextual contributions. I will have Yao to explain to the viewers about what is reflective practice.
Before I explain further, let me tell you what reflective practitioner is. Reflective practitioner is someone who has the capacity to reflect in, through, and on practice in order to improve performance. For example, a teacher that practices the process of reflection prior, during, and after teaching a classroom lesson to improve their teaching repertoire continuously. This term focuses upon the professionalism of the teacher, suggesting that the continuous analysis of the teacher's strengths, weaknesses, and area of further development are necessary and appropriate towards recognizing the ever-evolving understanding of the profession. Now, what is reflective practice? According to Drew and Bingham, reflective practice is looking back on an experience and making sense to identify what to do in the future. Meanwhile, Kolb in 1984 stated, reflective practice is where you do something, think about it, what you did, come to conclusion about what you did, and plan to try again. Basically, reflective practice is learning through and from experiences towards gaining new insights of self and practice. Hence, why should you be a reflective practitioner? The obvious reason would be to enable professional development. Apart from that is to maintain quality, which means reflecting on what went wrong and why in order to work on improvement, or reflecting on what went well and why in order to adapt them into a good practice. Now, let's take a look at the model of reflective practice. There are many types of model reflective practice. However, they all share the same basic aim, which is to get the best result from learning. Firstly, let's take a look on Sean reflective model. In 1991, Scott has identified two types of model that are relevant in the development of teaching practice, which are reflection in action and reflection on action. So, what are the differences between these two? Reflection in action, or at the time the event is happening, which means reflecting as something happens. Basically, during the time you experience the situation, you start thinking and deciding about it before acting immediately. For example, you are in the middle of a lecture, however, you are currently keep being distracted as you keep thinking about what to have for lunch. So you need to find a way to help you to stay focused as you want to get the most from the lecture. As an immediate action, you decide to start taking some notes of the key points from the lecture. Another model is reflective on action, or after the event, which means you're reflecting after something happened. Here, reconsider the situation, you will think about what needs to change or what you might do differently if the same situation happen again in the future, like new information gained or theoretical perspective from study that inform the reflector's experience are used to process feelings and actions. For example, you notice that sometimes after a lecture you can't really remember what has actually been covered. So you figured that in order to avoid this from happening again in the future, you should be prepared, like find out the lecture topic in advance and write down some questions that you need to answer. Then you make some notes during the lecture in order to help you stay focused. Apart from that, you could arrange to go for a coffee break with your peers after the lecture, where you can talk about what was presented during the lecture in order to help you understand better and form your own opinions. Another alternative is by filing your lecture notes and any handouts so that you can easily refer to them afterwards. Another model of reflection practice is Gibbs' reflective cycle. Gibbs' reflective cycle was developed by Graham Gibbs in 1988 to give structure to learning from experiences. It offers a framework for examining experiences and, given its cycle nature, lends itself particularly well to repeated experiences, allowing you to learn and plan from things that either went well or didn't go well. Basically, Gibbs' reflective learning cycle covers 6 stages. The first one is description of the experience. Here you have a chance to describe the situation in details. The main point to include your concern what happened. Your feeling and conclusion will come later. Some of the helpful questions would be what happened, when and where did it happen, who was present, what did you and other people do, what was the outcome of the situation, why were you there, and what did you want to happen. The second cycle is feeling and thoughts about the experience. Here you can explore any feelings or thought that you had during the experience and how they may have impacted the experience. Some of the helpful questions would be, what were you feeling during the situation? What were you feeling before and after the situation? What do you think other people were feeling about the situation? What do you think other people feel about the situation now? What were you thinking during the situation? And what do you think about the situation now? The third cycle is evaluation of the experience, both good and bad. Here you have a chance to evaluate what worked and what didn't work in the situation. Try to be as objective and honest as possible. To get the most out of your reflection, focus on both the positive and the negative aspect of the situation, even if it was primarily one or the other. Some of the helpful questions are, what was good and bad about the experience, what went well, what didn't go so well, and what did you and other people contribute to the situation, positively or negatively. Next cycle is analysis to make sense of the situation. The analysis step is where you have a chance to make sense of what happened up until now. You have focused on details around what happened in the situation. Now you have a chance to extract meaning from it. You want to target the different aspects that went well or poorly and ask yourself why. If you are looking to include academic literature, this is a natural place to include it. The helpful questions are, why did things go so well? Why didn't it go well? And what sense can I make of the situation? The fifth cycle is conclusion about what you learned and what you could have done differently. In this section, you can make conclusions about what happened. This is where you summarize your learning and highlight what changes to your action could improve the outcome in the future. It should be a natural response to the previous section. The helpful questions are, what did I learn from this situation? How could this have been more positive situation for everyone involved? What skills do I need to develop for me to handle a situation like this better? And what else could I have done? The last cycle is action plan for how you would deal with similar situation in the future or general changes you might find appropriate. At this step, you plan for what you would do differently in a similar or related situation in the future. It can also be extremely helpful to think about how you will help yourself to act differently, such that You don't only plan what you will do differently, but also you will make sure it happens. Sometimes just the realization is enough, but other times reminders might be helpful. Some of the helpful questions would be, if I had to do the same thing again, what would I do differently? Or how will I develop the required skill I need? And how can I make sure that I can act differently next time?
Wow, a very detailed explanation, yeah? Well done. So basically, Gibbs' reflective cycle is a good way to work through an experience. This can be either a stand-alone experience or a situation you go through frequently. For example, meeting with a team that you have to collaborate with. Gibbs originally advocated its use in repeated situations, but the stages and principles apply equally well for single experiences too. If done with a stand-alone experience, the action plan may become more general and look at how you can apply your conclusions in the future. Now, let's move to the benefits of being a reflective practitioner. These benefits focus on teachers' professional perspective. The first one is professional growth. Being a reflective practitioner can help promote your professional growth by carrying out an extensive inner thought process. You can have a better understanding of your own strengths and weaknesses. Second is enhanced motivation. Reflective practitioner can also use a reflective teaching method to search for innovation on how to improve your teaching. Reflective teaching and innovation fully complement each other. Next, enhanced problem solving. Experienced teacher would agree that a major part of teaching includes strong coping skills. By becoming a reflective practitioner, it can help to enhance our skill in problem solving and challenge.
Now, let's continue to our next part, which is Kaizen. Sounds like Japanese words. Have you ever heard about Kaizen before? It kind of remind me of Gokuzen. Kaizen, Gokuzen. Sounds similar, right? Let's just have Nach to explain about it further.
The little things add up. The word Kaizen is derived from two Japanese characters that loosely translate to good change or improvement. And in the context of lean management, continuous improvement while the management seeks to eliminate wasteful processes. Kaizen is the concept of creating small positive changes to eventually reap major improvement. Kaizen is not one specific methodology, but rather an attitude based on cooperation and commitment instead of radical top-down transformation. Kaizen is rooted in the belief that everything can always be improved. Nothing is status quo, and adaptation trumps perfectionism. There are many industries that adopt Kaizen in their organization, such as healthcare, banking, government, and education. In Japan, Kaizen is a familiar term in school. Kaizen in school refers to the continuous quality improvement of students' learning through the innovative of teaching techniques that is implemented by teachers and supported by the school administration. It is true that Kaizen principles are originally designed for industries, but some of the aspects in Kaizen can be used in education. Kaizen can be implemented in a 7-step cycle to create an environment based on continuous improvement. This systematic method includes the following steps. The first one is to involve employees. Basically, you as employers, you need to seek the involvement of your employees. For example, in school setting, there are meetings being held after the school session among the teachers and higher up to brainstorm on a solution regarding certain issues or even to gather some suggestions for the upcoming school event. Instead of discussing among the higher up, the teacher will feel encouraged as their ideas is being accepted. Next stage is identify problems. If you get the involvement from all employees, you get to see things from each of your employees' perspective. An example would be if you are the headmaster, you don't know why all the novice teachers are passive. It's actually due to no cooperation from other senior teachers. The third cycle is to create a solution. Now you know the problem faced by the novice teacher. You might want to adapt some system like mentor-mentee program between novice and senior teachers. This will bring you to the fourth cycle, which is testing the solution. Here you put an outline how many hours per week should this mentor-mentee program are being held. Make a documentation report on what the meeting's topic is each time. Then, towards the next Kaizen cycle, which is analyzing the results. The employee should be able to do the compare and contrast whether the programs adapted actually helps the situation. If it does bring even a little bit improvement, then standardize and adapt the program in the sixth Kaizen cycle. The last step would be repeat the cycle. The things about Kaizen is that it is not a one-time thing. It should be repeated on an ongoing basis with new solution tested where appropriate or new list of problem tackled. Now I will let Ya take from here.
Now, let's take a look at Kaizen 5S framework. This framework is actually a critical part of Kaizen system and establish an ideal physical workspace. Basically, this framework focuses on the workspace itself. The 5S focusing on creating visual order, organization cleanliness, and standardization to improve efficiency, service, and safety to the workplace. Now, let's dive deep into the framework. The first framework is SEIRI, which means sort. In this framework, it means to organize by separating necessary workplace items and remove unnecessary ones. The second one is Seiton, which means set in order. Basically, in this framework, it means to create orderliness where you arrange the items so that it will ease you to assess them in a way that makes the most sense forwards. In this sense, as a teacher, is how you arrange your materials or teaching tools in a classroom so that it will smooth your lesson for the day. The next framework is Seiso, which means shine. It means the cleanliness. As a teacher, you should keep your workspace clean in your office so that it will encourage you to stay dedicated to your work. Messy workspace can make someone feel lethargic for the day. The next framework is Seikatsu, which means standardize. In this framework, it refers to standardized clean, or we could say a systematic workplace cleanup. Since Kaizen is basically adapted from Japanese culture, we can take an example from the schools there. Every morning, the student will do a classroom cleaning session. They didn't even divide the duty by days, but do it together, daily. Unlike in Malaysia, even though there are duty roster, where some students are assigned to certain days, some of the students still skip doing it if the class looks clean in their rough eyes. The last framework is Shitsuke, which means sustained. Here, basically, the disciplines in keeping the efforts going, as commitment is an important factor in our career. Thus, it is important for an individual to have a strict discipline regarding the work ethics. Moving on to the importance of Kaizen. First and foremost, we are going to have waste reduction. So how this applies is that through the previous SEIRI framework, where you have to throw unnecessary items. This is how you reduce waste and only get the things you need. Next is productivity. Obviously, when you have this drive of constantly want to change or improve as you're not satisfied with your current level of quality, the effort that you've put in changing and improving actually speaks the word productivity itself. The third is quality. When you want to improve something, you need to have a stance or belief that you hold on to. You can't have a strive to change without any framework or specific process to achieve the goals. Thus, with Kaizen, the quality of improvement could be better, as there are, for example, the cycle and framework for you to work with. The fourth one is accuracy. Referring to the Kaizen cycle, it is accurate to say that you'll be in the right track if you are following the flow instead of going right into the adaptation process without knowing the roots of the problem itself. The fifth thing is empowerment. When you have a continuous improvement, you will not just improve yourself, but also your colleagues or even the school image. Apart from that, Kaizen also helps to create a happy workplace. As Kaizen really emphasizes on having everyone to interact and even got the 5S framework that teachers could apply, it creates an image where the individuals who apply Kaizen seem accessible and approachable. This allows more interaction between colleagues or even teacher-student relationship. Next is satisfaction. When you have a drive to constantly improving yourself, you will be satisfied on how far you have come when you do a reflection at some point. The last one is continuous improvement. When you apply Kaizen in your workplace, you eventually will improve your productivity without having the urge to stop or give up. This is why Kaizen is very important to apply in our workplace.
As we have been taught even during primary school, kindergarten, secondary school, in any level, learning is a continuous process whether we are aware of them or not, which explain why there are formal and informal learning in workplace. Knowing the terms and the cycle in details also will help education to improve themselves in creating positive changes. With this being said, we have come to the end of our podcast. So, I believe that our viewers have finally grabbed the concept of workplace learning through our heated discussion just now. Before we end, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the videos. Don't forget to turn the notification on too so that you won't miss out any interesting topic.
By the way, the audio version of our podcast are also available on Spotify, so give us a follow there. If you haven't joined our Discord community, the link will be provided under the description down below. There, you can suggest a topic of your choice, where you could also discuss on a topic of your own with our community. So, see you next week with another topic.
Bye for now!